If you don't know what a good life looks like, let me offer a different definition. A good life isn't simply owning expensive cars. It isn't wearing luxury watches. It isn't flying first class. A good life is freedom. Freedom to wake up when you want. Freedom to spend time with your family. Freedom to choose your work instead of being forced into it. Freedom from financial anxiety. Money alone doesn't create that freedom. Money is simply a tool. What creates freedom is leverage. Poor people often use money to buy lifestyle. The middle class often uses money to buy comfort. The wealthy use money to buy time. And once you own your time, you can acquire something even more valuable: influence. Influence over markets, influence over businesses, influence over opportunities, influence over people. Imagine two people, both starting at the exact same place. They earn the same salary, $100,000 a year. They work in the same city. They have the same 24 hours in a day. On paper, their financial futures look almost identical. But years later, one of them is still living paycheck to paycheck, maybe slightly better off, but still trapped in the cycle of earning and spending. The other one is worth tens of millions. So what happened? Was one smarter? Not really. Was one luckier? Not necessarily. Did one suddenly start working 10 times harder? No. The real difference was leverage. The first person used money the way most people do. They spent to stay comfortable. They upgraded their car, expanded their lifestyle, and slowly tied their income to a standard of living that kept rising every time their paycheck rose. Every extra dollar became a reason to consume more. The second person saw money differently. Instead of using income only for consumption, they used it to buy leverage. They hired help to save time. They invested in assets that produced more money. They built systems that worked while they slept. They learned how to use other people's skills, other people's capital, and technology to multiply their effort. So while both people earned the same salary at first, only one of them was building an engine. One person kept trading time for money. The other person used money to buy back time, and then used that time to build ownership. That is how the gap begins. At first, the difference is small. One saves a little more, one invests a little smarter, one buys back an hour here, a day there, and uses that space to create something that scales. But leverage compounds. A single good decision becomes a better year. A better year becomes a better decade. And a better decade becomes wealth that looks almost impossible to the person who never changed their strategy. So the lesson is not that both people started with different salaries. They started with the same salary. The difference was that one of them treated money as a lifestyle tool, while the other treated money as a leverage tool. Here's something many wealthy people understand. Investments don't usually create wealth. They multiply wealth that has already been created. Before you can multiply money, you have to build the machine that produces it. And that machine is leverage. Today, we're exploring the 10 forms of leverage the wealthy use to expand both their wealth and their influence. Because once you understand leverage, you'll never look at money the same way again. 1. They buy back their time. Think about it. Time is the only asset you can never earn back. The wealthiest man in New York has the same 24 hours as a teacher in Ohio. The difference isn't the number of hours, it's how those hours are used. For most Americans, the majority of those hours are spent selling labor. Whether it's clocking in at a factory, teaching in a classroom, or working behind a desk, income is tied directly to hours worked. That's the traditional trade, time for money. Imagine this. It's Saturday morning in suburban America. You've got 3 hours free. You could mow the lawn, scrub the bathrooms, and run errands. Or you could spend those same 3 hours building your side business, consulting for a client, or even resting so you're sharper for Monday. Here's the truth. Time is the only asset you can never earn back. A billionaire in Silicon Valley has the same 24 hours as anyone else. But the difference is that the average person spends most of those hours selling labor, trading time for money, punching a clock. But the wealthy, they spend money to buy those hours back. That's why successful entrepreneurs hire assistants. They outsource bookkeeping. They pay cleaners. They use Instacart for groceries, DoorDash for meals, Uber for rides. They aren't lazy, they're leveraging. They're constantly asking one question: what is the highest value use of my next hour? Here's a simple calculation. If an assistant costs $25 an hour but frees you to perform work worth $500 an hour, hiring them isn't an expense, it's leverage. Think about mowing your lawn. If you earn $200 an hour as a consultant in Chicago, 3 hours of mowing is $600 of lost opportunity. Pay a landscaper $50, and you've just bought back $550 worth of time. The wealthy understand something most people never calculate. Every hour spent on low-value work carries an invisible opportunity cost. Freedom begins the moment you stop trading every hour for income. So when you see someone hiring a cleaner, a driver, or a virtual assistant, don't think extravagance. Think leverage, because wealth doesn't start with money. It starts with time and how you choose to spend it. 2. They use other people's talent. Let's be honest. One person can only know so much. One person can only work so hard. You could spend decades trying to master accounting, law, marketing, design, and operations, and still fall short. That's why billion-dollar companies aren't built by one genius. They're built by teams. Picture this. You're trying to start a business in America. You're juggling taxes, marketing, contracts, design, customer service. You're wearing every hat. And at first, it feels heroic. You're the one-person army. But here's the truth. One person can only know so much. One person can only work so hard. Billion-dollar companies aren't built by lone geniuses. They're built by teams. The wealthy don't try to become the smartest person in every room. They surround themselves with specialists. They borrow expertise instead of spending decades acquiring every skill themselves. Instead of becoming the best accountant, they hire one. Instead of becoming the best lawyer, they hire one. Instead of becoming the best marketer, they recruit one. In Silicon Valley, founders don't spend years learning code, design, and law all at once. They build teams. In New York, real estate moguls don't draft every contract themselves. They have lawyers on speed dial. Even small business owners in places like Austin or Denver hire bookkeepers, social media managers, or property managers. It's not about weakness, it's about leverage. Here's the math. If you spend 200 hours trying to learn tax law, that's 200 hours you didn't spend growing your business, serving clients, or innovating. But if you pay a CPA $1,000 to do it right, you've bought back those 200 hours. Talent is time compressed. It's decades of someone else's learning condensed into the hours they work for you. The wealthy understand this. Every hour you spend trying to be a jack of all trades is an invisible opportunity cost. You're not just learning slowly, you're losing momentum. That's why your goal shouldn't be to become the smartest person in the room. Your goal should be to build a room full of smart people. The fastest way to grow isn't by doing more yourself. It's by empowering others to do what they do best. Stop trying to be the hero of your own success story. The world's wealthiest people didn't build empires alone. Build teams. Delegate with intention. Invest in specialists. Because true wealth isn't measured by everything you can do alone. It's measured by what your team can accomplish together. Imagine you're a small business owner in Chicago. You're great at sales, but you're drowning in bookkeeping. You spend nights staring at spreadsheets instead of closing deals. Now imagine hiring a bookkeeper for $25 an hour. Suddenly, your evenings are free to pitch clients, refine your product, or even rest so you're sharper tomorrow. That's not an expense, that's leverage. So, don't try to be the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best marketer, the best everything. Surround yourself with people who already are. Because wealth isn't built by lone wolves, it's built by teams. Talent isn't an expense, talent is leverage, and leverage is how ordinary hours turn into extraordinary outcomes. 3. They build systems instead of jobs. If your income stops the moment you stop working, you don't own a business, you own a job. But if income continues after you leave, you own a system. And here's the critical part. Systems only work if they're built on the right structure. A job is fragile. It depends on your daily presence. A system is resilient. It depends on structure. And this is where most people miss the mark. They chase income, but they never design the framework that allows income to flow without them. Take a dentist in Houston. She earns great money, but if she stops drilling teeth, the income stops. That's income. Now compare that to a dentist who builds a practice with associates, hygienists, and office managers. Even if she takes a month off, the practice keeps running. That's a system, and the difference is structure. Or think about a musician in Nashville. One writes songs but only gets paid when performing live. The other negotiates licensing deals, builds a royalty structure, and earns every time their music streams on Spotify. Same talent, different structure. Imagine two entrepreneurs in Chicago. One opens a restaurant. He works 12-hour days, 7 days a week. The other builds a food delivery app. After the app is launched, every new customer adds revenue without adding hours. Both are hardworking. Both are ambitious. But only one has a structure that scales, and 10 years later, only one is free. Systems aren't magic. They're built on structures like businesses with teams and processes, software that scales without extra labor, subscription models that renew automatically, licensing agreements that pay royalties, automated sales funnels that convert leads while you sleep. The wealthy are constantly asking, can this produce value without my daily involvement? If the answer is yes, that's leverage, but leverage only works if the structure is sound. Here's the hidden danger. A poorly built system is worse than a job because it gives the illusion of freedom while quietly draining resources. That's why structure matters. Without the right legal framework, tax planning, operational processes, and accountability, systems collapse. In America, wealthy families don't just buy assets, they build structures around them. Rental properties aren't just houses, they're LLCs with property managers. Investment portfolios aren't just stocks, they're trusts with tax strategies. Businesses aren't just ideas, they're corporations with governance and systems. The structure is what makes the system sustainable. Without it, you're just chasing income with a different label. So here's the takeaway. Income is fragile. Systems are resilient, but resilience doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from structure. If your money stops when you stop, you own a job. If your money keeps moving when you stop, you own a system. And if that system is built on the right structure, you own freedom. Because true wealth isn't about how much you earn. It's about what keeps working when you don't. 4. They use capital to make more capital. While a lot of people see money as something to spend, the wealthy see money as something to hire. Money itself becomes an employee. Every dollar has a job description. Every dollar is expected to go out, work hard, and come back with friends. Poor people ask, what can I buy? The wealthy ask, what can this money earn? That single shift in mindset changes everything. When the wealthy deploy money, they put it to work in stocks that generate dividends, businesses that produce profits, private equity that grows value, real estate that pays rent, cash-producing assets that spin off income. Each dollar is treated like an employee. If it's not working, it's fired. If it's producing, it's promoted. Imagine you're in New York. You earn $1,000 extra this month. You could buy a new iPhone, or you could buy shares in Apple. The iPhone loses value the moment you open the box. The Apple shares start working for you the moment you buy them. One is consumption. The other is employment. The wealthy don't just spend money, they recruit it. Here's the hidden truth. Money that isn't invested is unemployed. It's sitting idle. And idle money is wasted potential. The wealthy understand that every dollar should be on the payroll. Every dollar should be producing value while they sleep. Clients who treat money as spending power never escape the cycle. Clients who treat money as an employee build portfolio that work around the clock. That's why wealthy families in America don't just accumulate cash. They deploy it. They put it into rental properties with managers, dividend stocks with reinvestment plans, businesses with systems. Their money is never idle. It's always working. So here's the takeaway. Money is not meant to sit. It's meant to serve. Poor people ask, what can I buy? The wealthy ask, what can this money earn? And freedom begins the moment you stop treating money like a toy and start treating it like an employee. 5. They build network leverage. Let's talk about something that doesn't show up on a balance sheet, but often determines the balance sheet itself. Relationships. Your network often determines your net worth, because opportunities flow through people before they ever flow through money. Most people think wealth is built by grinding harder, working longer, or saving more. But one relationship can open doors that years of hard work cannot. That's why wealthy people intentionally cultivate rooms where opportunities naturally emerge. Think about Silicon Valley. Venture capital doesn't just flow to the best ideas, it flows to the best networks. Founders who know the right investors, mentors, and partners get funded faster. Or look at Wall Street. Deals aren't made on spreadsheets alone. They're made over dinners, introductions, and trusted relationships. Even at a smaller scale, a real estate investor in Dallas might find their best deal not on Zillow, but through a friend who knows a motivated seller. A financial strategist in Chicago might land a major client because a mentor made the right introduction. Imagine two entrepreneurs in New York. One spends 10 years perfecting their product but never leaves their office. The other spends 5 years building relationships, attending conferences, joining mastermind groups, cultivating mentors. When it's time to launch, the first entrepreneur struggles to get noticed. The second entrepreneur has investors lined up, partners ready, and customers waiting. Same ambition, different network, different outcome. Relationships create opportunities that money cannot buy. Business partnerships that expand reach. Joint ventures that share risk and multiply reward. Mentors who shorten the learning curve. Investors who provide capital and credibility. Introductions that open doors to clients, deals, and collaborations. The wealthy don't just collect contacts, they cultivate ecosystems. Here's the hidden truth. Every relationship is a form of leverage. Just like time, talent, and money, relationships multiply your capacity, and the wealthy understand that isolation is expensive, connection is profitable. As financial strategists, you see this every day. Clients with strong networks find better deals, better advisors, better opportunities. Clients without networks struggle, even with capital in hand. That's why wealthy families in America don't just invest in assets, they invest in access. They join country clubs, professional associations, alumni networks, and mastermind groups, not for status, but for opportunity flow. So here's the takeaway. Money moves fastest through trust. Your network often determines your net worth. Because one relationship can open doors that years of hard work cannot. And freedom begins the moment you stop asking, what can I earn alone? And start asking, who can I build with? 6. They use technology as force multipliers. 20 years ago, reaching millions of people required massive infrastructure, printing presses, TV networks, distribution channels. Today, one person with a smartphone can reach millions. One video, millions watch. One software product, millions use it. One online course, thousands purchase it. Technology has become the great multiplier of human effort. A lot of people still think in terms of jobs, hours worked, clients served one at a time, but technology scales effort. It takes what one person creates and distributes it endlessly at almost zero marginal cost. That's why the internet has created more millionaires in the past 2 decades than almost any other innovation in history. Think about YouTube creators in Los Angeles. One video can generate ad revenue for years. Or software founders in San Francisco. One app can be downloaded by millions overnight. Even teachers in small towns across America are leveraging platforms like Udemy or Teachable. They record one course and thousands of students enroll. That's leverage. Compare that to traditional work. A consultant in Chicago can only meet one client at a time, but a webinar recorded once can reach thousands of clients simultaneously. Same expertise, different scale. Leverage today often wears a digital face. Here's the hidden truth. Technology doesn't just amplify reach, it compresses time. What used to take years of distribution now happens instantly, and the wealthy understand this. Every digital product is a system. Every system is leverage. Every piece of leverage compounds. Clients who embrace digital leverage scale faster. Advisors who build online platforms attract more clients. Entrepreneurs who digitize their products multiply their revenue streams. That's why wealthy families in America don't just invest in traditional assets. They invest in digital infrastructure, software, platforms, automation, because technology is the new engine of wealth. So here's the takeaway. Technology allows one person to reach millions. One video, millions watch. One software product, millions use it. One online course, thousands purchase it. Leverage today often wears a digital face, and freedom begins the moment you stop asking, how many people can I serve in person, and start asking, how many people can I serve through technology? 7. They build brands that attract opportunities. Let's talk about something invisible yet incredibly powerful: reputation. A trusted reputation becomes leverage. People buy from names they recognize. Investors trust founders they've heard of. Customers return to brands they remember. And here's the secret: credibility compounds. Your brand eventually begins opening doors before you even knock. Many people underestimate reputation. They think it's just about being liked. But in business, reputation is currency. It's the difference between chasing opportunities and having opportunities chase you. Think about Warren Buffett. Investors don't just trust his numbers, they trust his name. His reputation attracts capital faster than any pitch deck ever could. Or consider Apple. People line up for new products not because they've tested them, but because the brand's reputation precedes the product. Even at a smaller scale, a financial advisor in Chicago with a trusted reputation doesn't have to cold call. Referrals flow naturally. A real estate agent in Dallas with credibility gets listings before competitors even hear about them. Reputation is leverage. Imagine two entrepreneurs. One has a brilliant product, but no reputation. He spends months convincing investors, begging for meetings, trying to prove himself. The other has built credibility over years, speaking at conferences, publishing thought leadership, cultivating trust. When she launches, investors call her. Customers line up, partners volunteer. Same product quality, different reputation, different outcome. Reputation creates leverage through business partnerships that trust your brand, joint ventures that seek your credibility, mentors and investors who believe in your track record, customers who return because they trust your consistency, introductions that happen because your name carries weight. The wealthy understand that credibility compounds. Every positive interaction builds equity in your reputation bank. Here's the hidden truth. Reputation works while you sleep. It's your silent ambassador. It speaks for you in rooms you haven't entered yet. And the wealthy know this. Money can buy attention, but only reputation earns trust. As financial strategists, you see this every day. Clients with strong reputations attract better deals, better partners, better opportunities. Clients without reputations struggle, even with capital in hand. That's why wealthy families in America don't just build portfolios, they build brands. They invest in credibility through philanthropy, thought leadership, consistent delivery, because reputation is the multiplier that makes every other form of leverage more effective. So here's the takeaway. Reputation is not just about being known, it's about being trusted. People buy from names they recognize. Investors trust founders they've heard of. Customers return to brands they remember. And freedom begins the moment your reputation starts opening doors before you even knock. 8. They use knowledge that compounds. Let's talk about an asset that doesn't show up on a balance sheet but quietly determines every other line on it. Knowledge. Knowledge is unique. It doesn't disappear after use. Every lesson improves future decisions, and the wealthy understand that better decisions compound faster than higher salaries. Most people chase income, they chase promotions, they chase raises, but the wealthy chase wisdom because they know that one good decision can be worth more than 10 years of hard work. Think about Warren Buffett. He's famous not just for his investments, but for how much time he spends reading. He once said he reads 500 pages a day. That's not entertainment, that's compounding knowledge. Or look at Silicon Valley founders. They spend enormous amounts on executive coaching, masterminds, and conferences. Not because they don't know enough, but because they understand that every new insight sharpens their decision-making, even at a smaller scale. A financial advisor in Chicago who invests in continuing education makes better portfolio choices. A real estate investor in Dallas who studies market cycles avoids costly mistakes. Imagine two entrepreneurs in New York. One spends 10 years grinding, working harder, chasing clients. The other spends those same 10 years learning, reading books, hiring mentors, attending conferences. When a market downturn hits, the first entrepreneur panics. The second sees opportunity. Same environment, different knowledge, different outcome. The wealthy spend enormous amounts on learning. Books that distill decades of wisdom into hours. Mentors who shorten the learning curve. Masterminds that provide peer accountability, conferences that expose them to new ideas, executive coaching that refines their leadership. Because they know this: every dollar spent on knowledge multiplies into better decisions, and better decisions compound. Knowledge is the only asset that grows every time you use it. Money can be spent, time can be lost, but knowledge compounds, and the wealthy understand that the return on wisdom is exponential. As financial strategists, you see this every day. Clients who invest in learning, whether it's financial literacy, market analysis, or leadership training, make sharper choices. They avoid pitfalls. They seize opportunities. That's why wealthy families in America don't just invest in assets. They invest in advisors, education, and thought leadership, because knowledge is the foundation that makes every other form of leverage effective. So here's the takeaway. Salaries fade, markets shift, but knowledge endures. It doesn't disappear after use. Every lesson improves future decisions. And freedom begins the moment you stop asking, "How much can I earn?" and start asking, "What can I learn?" 9. They think in terms of ownership. Here's a truth that often gets overlooked. Employees earn income. Owners earn appreciation. When you own businesses, stocks, intellectual property, or real estate, you benefit not just from your own effort, but from the growth of assets. Ownership creates leverage because assets appreciate while labor has limits. Think about it. An employee trades hours for dollars. The moment they stop working, the income stops. But an owner trades assets for appreciation. The moment they stop working, the assets keep growing. That's the dividing line between financial survival and financial freedom. Imagine two friends in Chicago. One works as a chef in a restaurant. He earns a steady paycheck. The other owns the restaurant. She earns from the chef's labor, the staff's effort, and the appreciation of the business itself. 10 years later, the chef has earned income. The owner has built wealth. Same industry, different leverage. Ownership creates leverage through businesses that grow beyond your daily involvement, stocks that appreciate as companies expand, intellectual property that earns royalties long after it's created, real estate that rises in value while producing rental income. Labor has limits, assets don't. Income is linear, ownership is exponential. Employees climb ladders, owners build elevators, and the wealthy understand this. Every hour spent earning income without building ownership is an hour that dies with you. But every asset you own keeps working long after you stop. Clients who rely solely on salaries are trapped in linear growth. Clients who build ownership, equity stakes, real estate portfolios, intellectual property, experience compounding growth. That's why wealthy families in America don't just chase higher paychecks, they chase ownership. They buy businesses, they hold stocks, they acquire property, because ownership is the engine of appreciation. So here's the takeaway. Employees earn income, owners earn appreciation. If your wealth depends only on your effort, it has limits. If your wealth depends on ownership, it has leverage. And freedom begins the moment you stop asking, "How much can I earn?" and start asking, "What can I own?" 10. They compound everything. Perhaps the greatest leverage of all is compounding, not just money. Relationship compounds, skills compound, trust compounds, health compounds, reputation compounds, investments compound. Every small advantage becomes larger over decades, and the wealthy understand this better than anyone. Most people chase overnight success. They want the big win, the lottery ticket, the viral moment. But the wealthy rarely seek overnight success. They seek systems that improve slightly every year. Compounding is not about speed, it's about consistency. A 25-year-old who puts $500 a month into an index fund may not feel wealthy at first, but by retirement, compounding has turned those small deposits into millions. Even outside of money, a fitness coach in Dallas who exercises daily doesn't just build strength, they build health equity that compounds over time. A financial advisor in who nurtures client trust year after year eventually has a reputation that attracts business without effort. Compounding is everywhere because compounding rewards patience. The wealthy understand that compounding is not just financial, it's holistic. Here's the hidden truth. Compounding is invisible in the short term, but undeniable in the long term. That's why time becomes the greatest business partner of the wealthy. They don't just invest money, they invest decades. Clients who chase quick returns often burn out. Clients who embrace compounding in investments, in relationships, in reputation build enduring wealth. That's why wealthy families in America don't just ask, "What's the return today?" They ask, "What will this become in 20 years?" Because compounding is the quiet force that turns ordinary decisions into extraordinary outcomes. Compounding is the greatest leverage of all, and freedom begins the moment you stop chasing overnight success and start building systems that improve slightly every year. Because time, when partnered with compounding, is the most powerful wealth engine in history. Remember this distinction. The poor spend money to impress. The middle class spends money for comfort. The wealthy spend money to create freedom, because freedom creates time. Time creates leverage. Leverage creates wealth. And wealth, when used wisely, creates the freedom to live life on your own terms. So instead of asking, "How can I make more money?" start asking, "How can I create more leverage?" That single question has changed more financial futures than almost any investment strategy. If you found this discussion valuable, remember to share this with someone who's working hard but wants to start working smarter. Leave a comment below. Which form of leverage do you think is the most powerful? Time, technology, ownership, or relationships? I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next video.